Mark got here quick. Can you hear me? Can you hear me like this?
Yeah.
Okay. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos on how to eulogize your dad last night, so this should go pretty smooth. I think I've got this locked down. It's an odd thing to stand in front of a room of your dad's most cherished family and friends and talk about him in the past tense. As heartbreaking as this responsibility is, it is the most profound honor I could possibly have. So thank you for joining me. Thanks for being here. For our family, time, which used to be complicated, just became very easy to measure. It consists of 2 units, with Ed here and without Ed here. I think Dad would appreciate this newer, simpler unit of measure because he had trouble with the old one. With Dad, if dinner was at 6, you'd tell him 5, and then you just cross your fingers and roll the dice and see what happened. There was a time a few years back where we had a big family dinner at Olive Garden, and it was my family, it was my sister's family, and about a half hour into our reservation, my parents still hadn't shown up. So we called them. I said, "Where are you guys at?" "Oh, just around the corner." Okay, so about a dozen breadsticks later, call them back. Just around the corner. Where are you guys at? Did I just hear a car door open? You guys are at home. You're at home. They were still at home, around the corner. That happened a couple of times over the years, and I'm going to put that all on Dad. My mom was very prompt. Dad was one of those rare people who would cause you to laugh regardless of the circumstances. I remember a time during the big storm in '96, that crazy storm where he had to get to work, and he had an old bike, and he tried to ride this old bike for her. And it was just too slick to drive, so we got on this bike, and we're standing out in the yard watching him, and about every 15 feet, he'd just fall over. And he'd get back up on that bike, and he'd go again, and I was thinking, man, I would just quit my job. It's not worth it. Not Dad, though. He kept on pushing. There was another time where we're up in Seattle, and he tried to convince me to help him pry open the demolition safety perimeter so that we could get a closer look at the Kingdom imploding. I didn't do that. One time we broke down in LA, and we were just rush hour, 6 lanes of traffic. Highway patrolman with a battering ram comes and just runs into the back of the van, gets a bullhorn on, and says, "Put it in neutral, turn to the right," pushes us across 6 lanes of rush hour LA traffic. One time we just straight up abandoned a car at Mount Shasta. We just left it there. We didn't need this car anymore. It died. Recently, needed a water pump installed at the house. So, it's expensive to get somebody to come out with a pump rig and pull it out of the ground, 260 feet out of the ground. So we did it with our bare hands. Just got out there. And it didn't work when we put it in, so we had to do it again. It was just, I've got about 1,000 of these stories if anybody's interested. After the service. It wasn't boring growing up in our house, but it was dangerous. It was borderline. Many of you know my dad from work, and his career path took a long and winding road to becoming the beloved Carney most of you know him as today. He sold used tires. He worked in fast food. He was a traveling salesman. He did whatever it took to keep us fed, keep clothes on our back, and keep shelter over our head. The path that he went on touched so many lives over the years. I'm sure most of you in this room have a lot of great memories with Dad on the job. Maybe the time at Walmart where he got made up and put on a dress and went to work for the day. There was the time he got to the fair at 5 a.m. so that he could make a huge roadkill elephant ear for the news so that he could be on the news that day. The one that jumps out to me, though, is the time where he didn't really consider the ramifications of selling an 18-inch corn dog at a Good Pride festival. Maybe he knew just what he was doing. My dad was really innovative. He was like the Steve Jobs of fried food. Yes. Today I'd like to supplement some of your wonderful memories of my dad with some true and noteworthy facts. He was you can get that. He was beautifully humble in all things. He saw in people what they could be, not what they were. He liked cheeseburgers too much. I do too. Dad was a world-class pocket dialer. I've got a 45. The last message I have from him is about a 45-second message of him hitting something with a wrench in the truck. I don't know what he was doing, but I cherish it now. Dad would abandon what he was doing anytime, anywhere, just to help you finish whatever you were doing. That's just the guy that he was. His favorite 2 words, especially if you told him that something wasn't going to work, were "yeah, but." I got so many "yeah, buts" from my dad over the years. His 3rd favorite word was "irregardless." Dad, it's just regardless. There's no irregardless. He heard you, but he'd still say, "Huh? Huh?" So you just have to wait it out. My wife tells me I inherited the "huh" gene from my dad. Making other people laugh and smile and all around feel good about themselves, that was effortless for Dad. You all know that. Forgot my bottle. The only gift he ever wanted for birthdays, Christmas, Father's Day was an aqua velva and sweatpants. The man has so many sweatpants. He wants sweatpants right now. He wasn't a perfect husband or dad. He was the best husband or dad. He thought Guy Fieri walked on water. He wanted to hit every diner's drive-in he had, everyone. He didn't quite make them all. He wasn't Edgar unless Grandma was mad at him. Dad worked hard and he didn't play enough. He gave so much more than he ever got to people. He didn't drink, but he went through a lot of Listerine. Dad didn't know what a grudge was. He was not a carny, he was a concession parent. Future reference. And this one's important. My dad had more kids than just my sister and I. There are a lot of foster brothers and sisters out there that are hurting right now, thanks to those who are here. He could still out-judo anybody in this room. He loved the Lord, he loved his family, and he absolutely made sure that we knew it. And in almost 39 years, he never once let me down. Big deal. You drink for this one. It's not Listerine, it's water. There's one more fact about Dad I'd like you all to know, and he cherished that lady right there. For 40 years, his planet revolved around her star. Here's a funny story. I think it's funny. You better laugh. The first time they met, Mom pulled up to the little market that he worked at, and Dad was there pumping gas. She said, "Hi." He just stared. "Hi." Saying nothing. And he said, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." And he came came back a few minutes later, and he had changed out of his work clothes into his fancy 1976 afro, lazy man, looking good does. He had plaid bell bottoms, and one of those big collared shirts, polyester shirts with a horse on it. He had a polyester shirt with a horse on it. I'm here days because of that horse on that shirt. Legend has it, he later told my mom in that moment that he thought she was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen. And he was going to marry her someday. Well, someday came pretty quick, 2 weeks later. They were in Reno, and they got married. The choices he made in his friendships, in his business, in his life, they were only to lift her up. They were and always will be best friends. My dad lived a life full of compassion and encouragement. I thought about those qualities a lot in him the last few days. And as his living legacy, my sister and I have the privilege of taking the best parts of him and carrying them forward. And my sustaining hope is that someday my children will reflect on the impact I've made in their lives the way that I contemplate my dad today. And that's a life well lived. It's hard parts. Moral stream. I know I speak for my sister too when I say how fortunate we are to have been this man's child. And how humbled I am that my final lasting memory of my dad is hearing those words he said to me every time we parted, including the final time.